If AI can create multiple palettes, how do you think about, okay, what do I want? How do I test it? How do I pick it? And how do I then go forward?
Without any further delay, our today's topic, the new AI product stack, where design meets the augmentation. And to introduce our speaker, we have Suhith Anantula, who is a very strategy designer, system thinker, and very much into AI. So Suhith comes with over 20 years of global leadership spanning corporate, startups, and the public sector with a mission driven organizations. Sohit is a visionary expert at the nexus of strategic design, system thinking, and AI transformation. Sohit is the creator of original frameworks like Helix Blueprint, Gain, and Lines, Loops, Vibes, which helps the organizations shift from static strategies to adaptive, rhythmic ones. As a founder of the Helix Lab and architect of the Helix Blueprint, Suhith partners with C-suite executives, government leaders, and innovation teams to harness AI not as a buzzword but as a system-aware tool for clarity, alignment, and sustainable impact. Suhith's unique approach emphasizes that strategy is a living system, people and purpose must align, and design principles must underpin AI-driven transformations. Through his signature AI SERPA model, bridging vision with hands-on implementation, Suhith enables organizations to navigate the AI landscape confidently, deploy high-impact pilots, and build the internal capability to scale intelligently. Suhith's impact includes launching Australia's first mission-driven economic strategy, globally scaling clinical trial systems, driving enterprise accelerators inside Boeing, and implementing AI solutions in sectors from finance to disability support. Another interesting factor about Sohit is he's currently writing his upcoming book, The Helix Blueprint, Designing Strategy in the Age of AI. This book offers a new language for navigating rapid change, where strategy is a system, not a statement, and where human insight and AI augmentation work in rhythm. Drawing on real world cases and powerful design principles, it provides a practical path to clarity, creativity, and impact in an uncertain world. At the heart of Suhit's philosophy is this belief: design is the operating system for the AI age. And when combined with the right augmentation, it turns complexity into an opportunity. So, prepare to gain clarity on designing AI augmented products that are deeply aligned with strategic intent, operational systems, and user centric design. With that, thank you so much, Suhith, for joining us for today's session, and handing over to you without any further delay.
Thanks for the fantastic introduction. Welcome, everyone. It's a great opportunity to kind of share some of my thinking and see where we go. What I want to share with you today is actually the learning that I've got over the years around how do you bring design into our world, but then how do we combine design with strategy. But the latest book I'm writing, The Helix Movement, is really about how do we kind of bring strategy and AI, strategy and design and AI together. So today I'm going to give you a glimpse into design and AI and how they come together. So let me share my screen with you and then we can walk through, and feel free to ask questions. Love to talk about some of this stuff. All right. So the key thing to remember is that what I call that we are not in the tech race, even though it's AI world. What we are is actually in a resonance race. What that actually means is that what you're building is a resonance with your customers and stakeholders. Do they really care about what you're doing? And that's really not about just AI, it's actually about design. And that's really the key conversation we're going to have today. That's a book that should come out in the next couple of months, so keep an eye on that. And as I was reflecting on this, I realized that actually it's a lot more than design. So you see, I've realized that there's actually three rhythms in our world. So we are all familiar with agile. That's your adaptive, iterative rhythm. That's your loop. But for a long time, we've used waterfall or structured way of working, and that's your lines. But then you need to also have an intuitive sense, a meaningful sense, a gut feel, a marketing sense, brand, all of these are actually your vibes. So what I realized is actually that there's actually no one right answer. It's not that agile is the best or sensing is the best or actually structured thinking is the best. It's actually understanding that there are different rhythms and each rhythm connects to a specific context. And that actually has helped me rethink how we think about strategy and design. Because there's always this waves and trends where something is better than the other. But I thought that's actually not the right way. There's actually different rhythms work in different ways for the right thing. You don't really want to build a bridge like the one they just did in Kashmir through a iterative adaptive process of trying and testing and failing all the time, right? At the same time, you don't want to understand humans or build the most coolest ad only by agile or structured. You want to have a real sense of understanding of humans work. So actually different approaches and different rhythms are valuable at different times. There's no one right answer. So I don't know how many are familiar with design thinking itself, and it'll be good to kind of maybe even put it up. Maybe some of you are UI UX designers, some of you are product designers, some of you are just curious about design. And maybe if you can just share in the chat, that'll be good context. But design thinking started with this idea that designers have been doing design for a long time. But what is that they do? And that was kind of the process of removing that aspect of thinking and making it into a process. So IDEO, of course, is world famous around that. Stanford D School has been pushing for it for a long time. There's a double diamond design framework from the UK. So a whole bunch of design frameworks. And over time, it's kind of moved into iterative design, especially with software coming up and this big focus on cycles of creation, testing, refinement, lean startup. And design gives you all the tools and methodologies that can actually enable you to do this, any of this thinking. So iterative design is a big thing. And of course, in the last couple of years, we've been seeing this idea of integrating AI into how design works. But what the future is actually is what I call co-intelligence, where it's not about AI integration, it's about humans and AI working together in the same way. And more than working together, it's actually humans and AI trying to figure out where is the strengths of each and what does the human do and what does the AI do. And that question is not just about design. I think that's a question about what we as humans are going to do at all in the future, irrespective of what work we are doing. Because every single work that we are doing will be affected by AI. So the question is not whether AI is good or bad or what do I do. It's really understanding deeply this idea of co-intelligence. So if you look at Tesla, right, it's a great example of how design, technology, but also whole lines, loops, and vibes come together. And I'll give you a sense of it. So I have a Tesla. I've had for 2.5 years, and the car features are not the same car features I had 2.5 years. Every month I get one or two updates. The software updates come. Suddenly you have a new feature. I mean, just imagine that, right? It's like a phone. They start with Spotify. Now we have Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music, Amazon Prime, Audible. You have a whole bunch of apps. You start to kind of see, oh, this is a different approach to work. So if you think about Tesla, right? Tesla makes the entire car an AI engine. Every single camera is collecting data. All of that stuff you're doing, whether you're stopping, you're going fast, you're slowing down, the car learns. What routes do you take? And Tesla doesn't take a Google map or an Apple map. It has its own maps that is built on Google Maps, but it has its own AI algorithm. Or do you use shortcuts a lot? Do you use the main road a lot? Do you actually go at the same time consistently? How do you drive? All the learning from all the cars are now being used to train the AI to design their robot taxis and design autonomous driving. So as you start seeing, the AI and the design stuff is being layered at levels and levels. And this is actually a good example of thinking about design not just as UI UX or a brand or a color as a logo. Design is also about systems. So we have to really think beyond just this idea that design is actually how it looks. It's actually about how it works and how the system itself works. So Tesla is a great example of all those layers. And when you're building anything, you need to really think, is this really about the look and feel, or is it actually much, much more deeper? How we even design our entire business. This is the framework I've created, one of the frameworks in the book. It's called 5 P's of Loop Design. And the idea behind this is that This is a way to think about co-intelligence. So each step I'll explain to you, but also is a step for a co-intelligence collaboration opportunity. So first is perceive, where you kind of sense meaning. Second is perform, where you kind of execute, you prototype, you learn. And most design frameworks stop there, but that's not enough actually. So you go forward and you create portfolio where you actually explore multiple ideas. And in the earlier world, you would do 3, 5, 10. And as I show you in the examples, with AI, you can do 1,000 at a time. So same thing is now amplified to the next level. But it's not enough to try a lot of things. You should be able to stop and say, how do I decide? That's your pause or promo. And then if it's not good, you go back to perceive or you go back to perform and you continuously do the loop. And when you're ready to scale, you go into progress and you scale it. You see the lines, loops, and vibes, and I've kind of mapped it to each part of the loop design frame. At the perceive stage, you need to be more vibes. You need to understand people, you need to understand markets, you need to sense, you need to be able to imagine what's not possible. You imagine the challenge. And you can't just do that by sitting in front of your computer and not talking to humans. At Perform, you have a very different approach. You need to start doing stuff. You can't talk anymore. You go get things done. But at Portfolio, you need to again open up and explore a whole range of ideas. Then you come back to Perceive and you say, actually, I'm exploring ideas, but as a human, now I need to evaluate and make a call. I need to make a call which ones I'm going to go forward, go backwards, try again, go move forward. Then once you get into progress, you constantly executing, which is your lines, and you're also learning all the time, which is your loops. So as you can see, the lines, loops, vibes actually show up in different ways. And almost it's impossible for the same person to do all of it. You need different people and different teams with different backgrounds and different rhythms to actually work on this. So how does this show up in the real world? It's nice to talk about this, but does it actually even make sense in the real world? So one of the fascinating things that's happening, right, is that as we move in the AI first era, your number of people you need to build a unicorn and the amount of time it takes to build a unicorn are going down dramatic, and it's a significantly different number. So you need half the people at one fourth the time you can build a unicorn, and that's a dramatic change in what we're doing now. We've been seeing what we call AI native companies, right? AI search engines like Perplexity or Granola, which does note taking. They have not just building what used to work and build AI on top. They have reimagined on the bottom up what it means to build with AI. This is a very interesting work about what does it mean for designing for the AI era. And what I saw, what this report says, which is exactly what I've been saying in my book and what I'm talking about, is that if everybody can code, right? I mean, I'm a non-coder, but I can go to Lovable, I can go to Cursor, I can start coding, I can start creating stuff, right? Of course, it's harder to scale that yet, but that will come. The differentiation now is not implementation, is whether what you're building actually matters for the people that you're building for. I'll repeat it again. In the age of AI, it's not about whether you can make it. Anybody can make anything now. But what you're making, does it even matter? So we have to rethink all our mindsets from implementation execution, which is super easy now, to should we even do it? And if so, how? So if you look at this before the AI and after AI boom, before the AI boom, there was a lot of AI support features that really made a difference. But as it went forward, the brand trust, user experience, personalization, they matter more. So funnily, the vibes part and the human elements matter more than the AI part in the AI world. It's almost like a counterintuitive thing, but that's exactly what's happening. So what's happening here is that your AI is a baseline, because everybody's going to have AI. If you say, hey, I use ChatGPT to get this idea, just remember that everybody has ChatGPT. You're not the only person having ChatGPT. So how do you go beyond that? This is the challenge. When the whole world's knowledge is in your hand and everybody's hand, what differentiates you from others, right? That's where resonance comes. That's where understanding how you connect to humans, connect to your markets, build products that really matter come into play. So coming back into this, what I'll do now is I'll take you a deep dive into each aspect of the framework. I'll give you examples for each one of them and help you understand how existing companies are already building this and what it means for you to kind of take this co-intelligence approach, this loop design approach, and really start rethinking how you do your work. So this is possibly the hardest part of the work that I've done to get to here. And this has been really about thinking, how does human and AI work? So if you look at perceive, humans really should be working on context, intuition, and sensing. And if you and where AI will be good is pattern detection and broad scanning, right? I'm trying to understand a problem. I go to Reddit, for example. There's like 1,500 comments. I can take all the 1,500 comments, put it into the AI. It'll tell me what the pattern is. What is the sentiment analysis of that? Which used to be like a machine learning challenge a few years back. Now it's a ChatGPT prompt, right? But the humans still have to figure out if that even makes any sense. And which Reddit thread should I go to? What question am I asking? Like that's a human intuitive sense and the context. It doesn't go away. But then if you want to kind of build something and perform, you have to give direction. You have to have an ethical lens. You have the right intention. AI can do it. AI can create any image. It can create a video. It can create an app. It can create a website. But what is that you want to do and what is that you want to approve? Then when you're doing portfolio, you need to provide the strategy, the prioritization, the boundaries. AI can do unbelievable parallel exploration, right? There's a new story about a drug company that explored 8,000 molecules to create one molecule that works. And AI helped them, right? Because it's not humanly possible to go through 8,000 molecules quickly, but the AI can do it. And next is the same. So as you can walk through this, you will start to realize that you have to actually start reflecting what is that I bring to this conversation and what does AI bring and how am I good or bad? That really becomes the most important conversation here. So if you look at perceive, right, it's all about vibes and sensing meaning. A lot of like VCs and a lot of startup founders start pushing for granola. I'm like, what the hell is this granola? Isn't it a breakfast thing? And then I started to look at it, and what I realized was granola tried to understand how do people, what do people do when they're in a meeting? Not the technology, but what do humans do? And what they realized what humans sit down, and a lot of people, when they're actually listening to a meeting, they write down some notes. It's a very natural habit to write down notes. Whether physical notes, whether in a notepad on the computer, you write something. Now, they took that insight, right? And realize that what people want is not automation of the meeting. They want sense making of the meeting. So what they have done now is they've combined, so you can write a note as you're listening in Granola, as you're doing the meeting, and Granola then combines your notes with the transcript and makes a whole sense of it. So it's not like your notes are on the one side, your meeting, your transcription is on the other side. It's all together now. And then you can actually make more sense of it. And then there you can add sentiment analysis and other things and start to really kind of use the data differently. So anybody can build an AI notepad, but if you don't understand what people do in a meeting and what is the goal of the actual notes, then you're not building the right product, right? So that's a good example for me for perceive, where you're actually focusing on understanding humans. This is another example. A European automotive manufacturer, they wanted to really explore a whole bunch of AI use cases, right? And so they decided that the humans would decide where would this go. But then they use AI to actually understand operations, supply chain, all the factory challenges, and then they've connected that information and asked AI to create use cases. Then the humans actually decided which ones to flag as high risk and what they would work on. And then they combined all of that to actually figure out where they would work with AI. And next one is perform, right? This is I don't know how many of you use Gumloop. So Gumloop is a very, very easy way to kind of create. Um, Basically, it's a way to like a small agentic framework, right? I want to do web scraping, but I don't know how to code. But you can go to the Gumloop, you can pick the web scraping agent, connect it to whatever the hell you want, and then put it stuff, it starts flowing. But to do that, right, they had the idea, but they're like, how do we actually figure out what people are doing and what they want? And what they did was they used AI to create 50 different UI elements, UI variations, and they gave it to multiple people at the same time and used this as data to actually create what they want to pick. So the AI was creating the UI and the humans were testing it. This is another fascinating example of a Finnish design company called Marimekko. Now, what they wanted to do was they wanted to figure out that how do we make lots of decisions, um, but at the same time use AI. So they started to build what they called a decision factory, where the humans would start actually making decisions and saying, these are the business rules, these are the targets. And the AI would actually work towards creating multiple ideas and optimizations that would fit this boundaries that the humans have created. Then we have portfolio. This is a cursor. If you are in the software space, you would have definitely tried it. They built a different kind of approach and saying, how do we help the AI coders to use it productively? And what they did was they run huge amount of experiments across the board with everybody in their customers, but they used AI to analyze it constantly. So they would take different pathways on what people would do, let the AI do the analysis, let it come back, then they would look at it. Then they made this next step, same way, next step, same way. And before you know, they went from 0 to 100 million in less than 2 years. It's crazy what they're doing, right? Um, and the same you can run in different and I'm trying to give you not just a software example because that's the easy one, right? So I don't know how many people here know Nassim Taleb. He's written multiple books. He's the originator of the idea of the black swan. But he talks about something called the barbell strategy, where if you want to really understand and manage risk, you need to work like a barbell on the edges. If you look at the barbell, right, it's thin in the middle and you have huge chunks at the end. So if you're running a if you're running a say stock market portfolio, you take few blue chip stocks and a lot of like risky stocks. If you're running a lot of ideas, you would take very safe ideas and some crazy ones. So that's kind of what the barbell strategy is. So a leading hedge fund, what they did was they used that idea and saying rather than having the perfect strategy, they ran 1200 plus parallel trading strategies with AI and really let the AI go and use this barbell strategy to kind of explore this and then figure out which strategies actually will perform rather than the human saying, I know the right answer. If you have all these ideas, you come to the fourth stage of pause or promote and you say, how the hell do I decide which ones to go forward, right? And that sometimes becomes the hardest part is what do I do? Which decision should I take? And that decision making becomes very hard. This is another example of doing this in academia. So imagine you have thousands and thousands of research papers. AI can actually start filtering them, right? Summarizing them, finding patterns, looking for this. Rather than you go and do research, the AI can do research for you. And then the researchers will be saying, as humans, oh, interesting. What about that direction? What about if I bring this case study together? Actually, what if I bring that paper and this paper together? And that's how you can start to kind of work on it, where the AI kind of gives you all these ideas, but you decide which direction, which methodology, which approach, which interpretation that you want to take. Then finally, in progress, you are actually building a learning system. Because now that you've decided which direction to go, you are actually not just kind of, you can't just start and stop. You have to constantly evolve. So, you need to do, of course, A B testing and all that, but you can also do immediate sentiment analysis. You can do optimizations. You can really use AI to kind of give you these multiple feedback loops as you're executing and improving at the same time. This is an example from Shell. So Shell actually does a huge amount of, as you can imagine, maintenance across its oil pipelines. So what Shell's been doing is basically looking at this and saying they brought huge amount of human expertise and decades of experience, but then they trained their AI algorithm to analyze data, sensor data and other data to kind of connect with what the humans have figured out. And then they realized that they actually found that they have a 41% reduction in unplanned downtime. That's the 5 different parts of the loop design. Those are the examples.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Suhith, for this insightful session. So we have few questions. So this question is from Charan.
Hi, Suhith. It was a wonderful lecture. I loved your design thinking strategies you're using. And I really also admit that design is actually required to build a brand. Instead, after you build a brand, you think about the design. In relation to that, I would have a question that in this current AI era, how would you suggest a student or working professional to consider the design thinkings? As you know, the current AI is able to generate a quite good amount of designs for you. So how to like basically even in the Google era, it was like the maturity for a student or a developer to understand what's the correct adoption or what's the wrong adoption matters more. So in this, how would it work for the current AI era? And what are the tools or frameworks you would suggest for such design thinking?
No, I think it's a very good question, right? Like if AI can design anything, and I think your question was about color palettes.
Yes.
If AI can create color palettes, then who am I, right? There are a few angles here, right? If you just take color palettes, I think you can take a huge amount of time as a human to actually understand what colors work for in what context, right? It's
Hmm.
still a psychological decision, right? Where does green show up? Why is blue considered in what way? What does yellow mean? How do humans react to orange? That stuff you have to still understand. Even if the AI gives you a palette, you can't make sense of it if you don't even know what you're looking for. So you really have to spend the time to understand and your subject. Then the second thing is, to your point, is you need to be able to actually figure out a way to move faster now. If AI can create multiple palettes, how do you think about, okay, what do I want? How do I test it? How do I pick it? And how do I then go forward? If you've used ChatGPT for any time, you know that there's a huge cognitive load. It actually becomes harder after a while because your brain's like buzzing. There's so much to do. So you actually have to have your own mental model framework that says, okay, how do I make this decision and when do I stop? Because AI can give you hundreds of ideas. So you need to figure out when to stop. It's the opposite problem than 20 years back when it's like, how do you create more? Now it's like too much of more, right? You need to stop. So that those parts still become your stuff. One of the interesting things I've seen, Charan, is AI can actually connect dots sometimes better than humans. So what it does is it can find, say, a color palette that you've never thought about as a human and could potentially work, right? But you need to kind of have that idea and connection to do it. So we need to be like looking and working with it very differently, which actually is our workflow has to change more than the AI.
I would also like to ask one more question. How can we consider the same design thinking for a cross-platform product? For example, you can take healthcare into a technology firm. So you're
Yep.
building a healthcare in a technology domain. So how to consider the same design thinking as well for that case?
Yeah, it's the same approach. So the 5 Ps I've talked to you about, I've used it in every single industry. It doesn't really change, right? In healthcare is big, right? Are you talking about a hospital? Are you talking about in-home care? Are you talking about, how people are testing stuff? So there's a whole bunch of things you have to look at.
Great. Thank you, Suhith. Ram, please go ahead. You have your hand raised.
Want to have like a completely counterintuitive question. AI seems to be making us basically fake it till you make it type of scenario, right? Everything is better word, right? Anything that you produce is inherently flawed. Either you talk about design, either you talk about content, you literally like almost everything. Are we getting to a place where mediocrity is the norm? And is it going to be like more and more mediocre as we start using AI? How do you, I mean, it just feels like a buzz, right? So you go there, boom, you put something amazing, stuff comes out, and you're like, voila, and then like useless in a critical scenario, right? You want to do some presentations, yeah, Gamma will put it, but Gamma is useless if you want to put something complex, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
how do you even deal with this high social mediocrity? It's like it's mediocrity in every single sphere of life, and it's just mind blowing.
So I think the whole process in that is the mediocrity is coming because people are not spending time to think. So the mediocrity is very easy to come, right? For example, I'll go and say, give me 5 steps to do X with ChatGPT. It'll give you something. Right. And that will be mediocre because it's learning from the whole world and telling you what it is imagining. But if you say, actually, it's not what I want is 5 things. Within that, I want to understand this part. And to do that, I'm going to do this research and then analyze, think, provide my own critical thinking, and then what it. Those are two different things. What people are doing is they're using ChatGPT as Google. And suddenly they've realized they're getting a better answer than Google. They'll copy pasting it. Unfortunately, ChatGPT is not Google, right? So it's about how we are actually working with it. So we are going to go through this phase for the next few years where unfortunately we'll have more mediocrity. But as people realize and understand and get mature, that actually what we are working with is so powerful, is it's actually me who's using it wrong. Because if everybody has access to ChatGPT and everybody's, I think the good example is I talked to a student the other day and they said everybody is using ChatGPT in the university. But what it means is nobody's getting the top score because all mediocre. It's all same. But the ones who are really smart, right? So a good example is my daughter is 11. They have in some of the homeworks, they get 4 questions, and the fourth one has to be done with AI. That's the requirement. And the interesting thing is, it's actually so bloody hard that you can't just do it on your own. You have to use AI. And how they use AI to solve it actually becomes the thing. And what I've seen is my daughter's ability to actually use AI has actually gotten better. And she's actually improved her entire ability to think now by doing that. So it's actually really not about the AI itself. It's actually comes back to us again. Even when I talked about the whole design process, the easy one could be, hey, let's create 3 things, right? But this is where I'm trying to talk about co-intelligence. Is where is the human strength? Where is the AI strength? I'm not sure if you were part of that presentation, if you saw the table. But basically the idea is where does human show up? Where does AI show up? And the real challenge, Ram, is that we never think like we have not spent enough time as humans to think about what am I actually good at. So that becomes a challenge. And as you go through that and as you use the AI, I actually think that will push the boundaries of what we can do.
All right. So another question came up. The question from Krishna is approaching intention a crucial thing using AI?
If you actually don't know what you're asking, then what can AI do, right? If you guys have used AI at any time, especially the reasoning models, I would really ask everyone to use the reasoning models, whether it's Grok, whether it's DeepSeek, whether what it is, and actually don't even look at the answer. Write the prompt and read what the AI is thinking. You will actually realize that it will say, hey, what did this guy say? This guy said this, actually this. Did he mean that? What is it trying to say? You will actually realize you didn't even ask the right question. And you didn't even put in enough information. You didn't even clarify what is your goal, what is your objective, what is your assumptions, what do you want to achieve, how much do you want to do. You can have a 1 line prompt, or I've got prompts which are like maybe 25, 30, 40 lines. Right? It depends on what you're actually trying to do and achieve here. Absolutely, your intention matters, but clarifying your intention, that becomes the harder part of this conversation. So, absolutely, it matters, but I would really like everybody to go try a reasoning model and really let it become the mirror of your thinking, because it will actually show you how much you actually put thought into what you're trying to do.
One more question. Basically, there is this talk about AGI, and also there is one paper that is published by AI.
Yes, correct.
What does it mean for everything that you just said?
I think my point is very simple. In the world of AI, design becomes more important because AI can do anything. What do you want to do? It becomes the more important question, not how to do it. A research paper can be written by AI, but the humans actually did the parts of the research and they decided which direction they want to go. And at one time, AI will also making some of these decisions. I think if you read the Alpha Evolve paper by Google, it actually made its own assumptions, tested, and created new algorithms, which is where it's going. My thing is that AI will actually enable us to do something which we have not thought possible before. It will get us to a scale that has been humanly not possible. The challenge, though, and this is the really big challenge, is we have to be so strong, so courageous to embrace this and go forward. That is the challenge. And that is actually not an easy challenge because we have to literally rethink our entire work. And not everybody is ready for it. Most people want to just be who they are, they want to come home, take it easy. Who wants to learn all this stuff? That becomes the real challenge, because that's where there'll be kind of this challenge of, okay, how will you survive in 5 years if you don't change, or 3 years or 2 years, right? So that will become the challenge. And if you look at humans, right, 100 years back, we didn't have washing machines, dishwashers, we didn't have Netflix, we didn't have a car, and we were very busy. We have all that, we are still busy. We'll always find something to do. We are never ever entirely happy with what we have. So if some other powerful thing comes, we'll create new ways of using it to keep ourselves going. That's been the name of the game. Well, if will come a time when we actually don't have to do anything and the AI will do everything, I don't know. We'll see. But I think that we don't stop. We are always constantly use our tools to do something else.
Thank you everyone for your time and really appreciate. I know it is late for you, Suhith. Thank you so much for joining, and thank you, Ram, for making it up. It's too early for you, and we will see you with another topic next week, guys. Have a great day and great weekend, all of you.